everybody, I hope you're all doing well. My name is Ashley and this is the Library of a Silver Saint, where we talk all things books. I cannot tell you how excited I am for today. If you can't guess what the theme of the video is, if not from the title of this video or from the thumbnail, then you must be able to tell from the background. It's the day of the Silver Saint. We're having a Silver Saint Sunday today. It's Sunday when I'm filming this, and I thought Empire of the Dawn, Book 3 in the Empire of the Vampire series by Jay Kristofff, one of the most highly anticipated fantasy books of the year, is being released next week in a mere few days. And if you know me, if you know the title of my channel, Library of a Silver Saint, you know that I'm an enormous fan of the Empire of the Vampire series. And this is the final book in the trilogy, the final book. And I thought, in celebration, in honour of the release of Empire of the Dawn taking place next week, I thought I would film a video dedicated completely to the events of Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristofff. From Holy Cup comes Holy Light, the faithful hand sets worlds aright, and in the seven martyrs' sight, mere man shall end this endless night. As I say, I thought I would take the opportunity to dedicate a video completely to Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristofff. As I say, if you know me, you know that I am the biggest fan of this series. It's a very well loved series, but it's the series that really, apart from one other series, this is the series that really propelled me into loving fantasy books as an adult reader, and it's really set me on a path of my reading, and all of the choices of books that I made after reading this book and another series by a different author have kind of led to me to where I am today, and to making booktube videos and starting this community and meeting so many like-minded people. It's just such a special book series to me, and it will always be a special book series. And so I thought, to celebrate Book 3, the final book in the series being released next week, I would dedicate a video to Empire of the Vampire in its entirety. So I've come fully prepared. I've got my Ash Drinker tattoo. I've got my Silversaints t-shirt by Flowers and Fantasy. She is awesome. She has the most incredible merch, and I love her Silversaint t-shirt. It's got the little 7-star. We're prepared. We also have a little bit of an additional backdrop. Sorry, there is a neighbour outside, and they're kind of wondering what I'm doing. Probably. It's a bit awkward. It's fine. Are they gone? Are they going? They're going. It's fine. I haven't worried them too much, I hope. Also, we have a little rogue Ernie just running around in the background somewhere. So he's just checking out what's going on. I have also arranged my table. So we have our lovely Gabriel de Leon, the wonderful colour illustration of him, the main protagonist in the book. He has my heart. We have Empire of the Vampire, Book 1. And I brought along some additional extras as well. I've also brought my trusty, gorgeous, fully coloured, illustrated special edition of Empire of the Vampire as well, which I may be using to reference throughout this video. And it wouldn't be right to have a video without a hot beverage, a nice warm beverage to deal with the coldness that is in this story. And what better mug to use than my take this coin to market and buy a fuck to give mug that my wonderful friend got me, which is a very famous line from the Empire of the Vampire series. Let's dive in. I am so excited. I want to use this video as an opportunity to basically explain why you should read Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristofff. If you feel that it's something, if it's a book that you haven't read before and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'd like to give that a go, I'd like to learn a bit more about it. This is kind of a non-spoiler overview summary and basically me just gushing about my many reasons as to why I love it. This will be completely non-spoiler. I might just spoil something specifically right at the end, but I will give you fair warning that I'm going to spoil something. And it's just a few things that I want to talk about that I personally love from the series that I can't talk about without it being spoilers. So I will give you a fair warning. It will be right at the end of the video, so don't worry, I will let you know. So if you haven't read it and you're just using this as an exploration, please don't worry, I will give spoiler sort of warnings, but the majority of this video will be completely non-spoiler. This is going to be sort of an overview of Book 1, a summary of Book 1, not really a summary, an overview and my opinion, my review of it, I guess. Just a video dedicated to Empire of the Vampire Book 1, completely non-spoiler until right at the end. But as I say, I will warn you, and I hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoy. If you don't like Empire of the Vampire, please feel free to not watch this. It's totally fine. You know what? I joined BookTube so that I could yap about books and yap about books that make me smile. And this book, this series, makes me smile so much. Despite how dark it is, it makes me smile. It brings such warmth to my heart. It means so much to me. It's so special to me. I've met so many other people that have read it and adored it. Some of my close book friends absolutely adore this series and read it based on my recommendation, which makes me so happy, and have loved it. And it feels so good to be able to talk about this series and introduce more people to it and just enjoy it. So if you don't like it, that's cool. You can just maybe just click off, and maybe this video isn't for you, but I'm so excited to yap about Empire of the Vampire. Now I am going to, as I say, I'm following notes. So, you know, I wanted to make sure I delivered a comprehensive, interesting video. I don't know if that's going to be achieved, but we will see. Okay, so Empire the Vampire by Jay Kristofff is a very post-apocalyptic, dark, gothic world. And the story is set in a world that Jay has made called Eladean. This world that Jay has created is in utter peril. It's a nightmare. It's a disaster. The world has been impacted by this weird, awful phenomena. We don't quite know what caused it. I don't know if it's explained in book 3, but it hasn't been explained thus far in books 1 and 2. So forgive me. Book 1, Empire of the Vampire. Book 2, Empire of the Damned. Book 3, Empire of the Dawn. I will not be talking about the events in Empire of the Damned, book 2. I will purely be focusing on the events of Empire of the Vampire, book 1. I don't know why I did an air grab there. Went very 80s like rock star again. It's just how this makes me feel. Okay, so we have this very strange, dire, apocalyptic phenomena, natural disaster thing has taken place. We think, possibly, I'm not sure if it's explained, but it's known as Day's Death. It's what people call it. In Day's Death, a horrible thick mist has sort of shrouded and descended on the earth and has shrouded the light. So the sun is not able to rise properly. It's not able to shine properly. This has taken place over the course of 27 years. So it's been 27 years of the sun barely shining. So it's kind of like a little candlelight in the sky. It's not giving a lot of light, and everything is just terrible. Nothing can grow, nothing can flourish. People are trying to go grow their crops and they can't because the sun's not out. It's a total nightmare. I said it before, they're all eating potatoes and mushrooms because it's all they can live on. They're drinking terrible crappy vodka because that's all they can make. It's just absolute chaos. It's yucky. It's awful. Everyone's miserable. Everyone's like, well, what's the point? This is awful. In this world, no humans are thriving. Everyone's suffering. This is awful. However, one kind of person is thriving, and that is cold bloods, vampires. They are thriving in this world. So far, they've been held back. You know, every now and then, every day, the sun would come out, shine brightly, ruin their day. They're thinking, well, I can't do anything. I can't thrive like this. This is a nightmare. This sudden mist comes down and descends on the earth and, you know, covers the sun up. Well, hey, this is brilliant. We can go out and just destroy everything. So, vampires, cold bloods have been thriving. They have built their empire. They are stronger than ever. They're just walking around casually in daylight because there barely is any daylight. And they're just killing people left, right and centre. It's all awful. It's a living nightmare. Now, I will have to say something about these vampires. The vampires that Jay Kristofff has written, they are not just any old vampire, but also they're very traditional. There are a lot of vampires in modern fantasy fiction. A lot of vampires, you know, you've got your Twilight kind of vampires, you know, your Edward Cullens, your glittery, sparkly ones. You also have so many different types. There are vampires explored in things like the Poisoner series by Ivy Ophelia. These aren't just any vampires. They're very traditional. They're evil. They're cruel. They're cold, but they are beautiful. Okay, not all of them are beautiful, but I'll explain that later. But mostly the evil ones, the main villains in this story, are beautiful, and they are self-serving and cruel, and the opposite to Ernie, who is warm, lovely, and really patient. Hello. I will promise I will take you for... It's been raining all morning. It's Day's Death here in the UK at the moment. It's been raining all morning, so I haven't walked him yet, but I will do it, I promise. Also, I just noticed I've got a fruit tea today, and it's red, so it looks a bit like blood. On brand. Okay, so these vampires, they're self-serving, they're cold, they're just so selfish and They believe that they, deserve power and deserve to have everything. But they are beautiful and they are alluring and they are kind of quite sexy. I've mentioned this before. They very much remind me of the vampires in the film Van Helsing. If you've seen that film, they remind me of a bit like that. They're very beautiful. They're very attractive, but just inherently evil and selfish. The vampire lore that Jay has written in these books is absolutely delicious. It's so interesting because it's so traditional to vampires. So you get a lot of, obviously, inspiration from things like Dracula, where the traditional vampire lore comes into play. So there are some traditional sort of laws that the vampires have to sort of, sorry if you can hear Ernie playing in the background. There are some very traditional laws that vampires have to stick to. They can't cross running water. It reminded me of the ring wraiths in Lord of the Rings. So I just picture them to get into a bit of water and being like, darn it. They can't cross running water. Obviously, they can't come out in sunlight. And certain religious artifacts and things can cause them a little bit of trouble as well. I don't want to spoil too many aspects, but there are definitely things that can be used as weapons against them. Natural materials that can be used as weapons against them. Holy water, things like that. They do have some set rules, but there are also things that Jay has created. He's kind of taken traditional vampire lore, but he's also altered them to make them suitable to this world and created his own vampire lore, which I find really interesting too. It's so cool. Okay, in the story of Empire the Vampire, I've not spoken about any of the characters yet. We are following this guy, Gabriel de Leon. He is the protagonist of this series, okay? He is a Silver Saint of Saint Michon. A Silver Saint is a member of a sworn brotherhood which vows to protect people from vampires, to defeat vampires, and to hopefully eventually end Day's death. Gabriel de Leon is telling his story in this book in a kind of framed narrative style. So you are given multi sort of timelines in this story. When we are introduced to Gabriel, he is currently in the present day in prison, and he is being held in prison by the very people that he wants to destroy, vampires. And he is being interviewed, very Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice style, by a vampire historian called Jean-Francois of Blood Chastain. I will not go into that just yet. I will talk about that a little bit more later. But he's interviewing Gabriel and he is essentially asking him for a history of his entire life. He wants to find out where Gabriel came from, what happened, and wants to know details on all the events that Gabriel has gone through that have led Gabriel to get to where he is now, in prison with Jean-Francois. With the timelines, you have the present day, which is Gabriel in prison. You then also go back to the past when Gabriel is 15 years old, where the events of Day's death start actually happening. The Day's death sort of impacts Gabriel when he's about 8 years old, but then we see him when he's about 15 years old. We get that timeline as well. So when he's quite young. We also then see Gabriel in as his years as a Silver Saint and in his later years as well. So we get quite a few timelines, which is really interesting. And I love this. I love this style of writing that Jay has chosen because it really, for me, just kept everything moving along beautifully. There was never a moment where I thought, oh no, I really just want to stay in that moment. I loved every timeline. I was fully invested in every timeline. And it all just worked together beautifully with all the little plot points and the lore and the character information that we were being fed to really keep me on my toes and keep me my eyes were glued to the page. I didn't want to look away. It's addictive. It really kept the pace. These books are chunky. They're like 700-800 pages. They're whoppers. But they just read so quickly. Gabriel de Leon is your classic anti-hero. If you like dark fantasy, if you like dark books, this is something that may interest you. He's your classic anti-hero, morally grey, maybe a bit of an unreliable narrator. Not sure if we can trust him, which I absolutely adore, because you're invested in all of the different sides to Gabriel. He's not just your traditional hero where he's done everything perfectly, he's made all the right choices, he's naturally got all of this stuff just given to him. No, Gabriel has to work for it, and anything that he's ever good at, anything that he's ever good at in terms of his physical abilities, in terms of what he does as a Silver Saint, he's had to earn it and really work for it. And I don't mean just, practice. I mean, really work for it and suffer. He's had to suffer. And he's also been put in so many situations where he's not been given a choice. He's not been given a choice. The choice is made for him. We see how all of that shapes him. But we see him as he develops from a young man, a boy who just wants nothing more than to look after his mum and his dad and his sisters you know, going through the events of Day's death where they're so poor and they've got barely anything. But then we see him develop from this young boy who just wants to be a hero, just wants to do the right thing, to growing up to be an adult man who just has vengeance on his mind and is completely transformed as a person and is actually, in some cases, quite a shell of himself. We also see him at stages of being a hero as well and being loved by everybody. But then we see the aftermath of that as well. So you get to see him at all of these different stages, and it builds his character so well, you know, and seeing all of these stages in contrast with then seeing him in the present day, you know, a prisoner, not able to do anything, completely powerless, and just thinking, what's there to live for? What do I have to live for now? Because, you know, I am where I am. We follow Gabriel throughout his life as essentially he is on a path to end Day's death. Now, he doesn't realise that he's on this path. He's kind of put on this path, and he ends up choosing to join this path to end Day's death. Day's death, it is told in a prophecy. The prophecy, from holy cup comes holy light, the faithful hand sets world aright, and in the 7 martyrs' sight, mere man shall end this endless night. The whole story is based on this prophecy, where it is potentially recognised that Day's death can be ended by something known as the Holy Grail. We follow Gabriel as he ends up going on this journey to find the Holy Grail and find a way to end Day's death. Now, I just want to take a moment to talk about the world building that Jay does. Now, there are lots of, I think the world building is beautiful. Firstly, I also just wanted to take a moment to give myself an excuse to show you the beautiful full colour map of Eladean that we have. Eladean, the world that Jay has created, very much mimics so many aspects of our world. Okay, so we have different areas. So it's an entire empire, and we've built with the main part of Eladean. We've got Nordland, Talhost, Osway, and Sutheim. I'm sorry if I pronounce any of these wrong to anybody that does actually know how to pronounce them, but I'm terrible. I love the world building as well, because it's very much, and if you listen to the audio, you'll get this as well. The world building in terms of the lands and the people. So you've got, for example, in Talhost, a lot of the people that live there or originate from there is kind of like French inspired. So Gabriel, for example, is often referred to as like chevalier and stuff like that, you know, French soldier. And that's all really interesting. So there's a lot of French inspiration here. A lot of the Silversaints also have this. And obviously they're all from different areas of the world. But so there's a lot of French inspiration in this. We then also have, and I wrote it down because I was very specific. Yes, Osway. Now, Osway here in the middle, you're not really introduced to much about Osway in book 1, but in a lot of the characters from Osway there's a lot of sort of Celtic folklore, and it almost is, yeah, definitely inspired by sort of Celtic folklore. You kind of have a Gaelic, Irish, Scottish, Highland sort of the influence. So in terms of their accents, the way they dress, and into their history and their culture as well. So it's all really well embedded. And then also just in terms of the world, I have to say that one of the most beautiful things about this book is sounds really boring, but the architecture. This is a Gothic story, okay? This is a Gothic story. And if you are into anything remotely in terms of Gothic sort of architecture, castles, cathedrals, churches, anything like that, anything, then I think you would really enjoy this. There are some absolutely beautiful descriptions of Saint Michon, where Gabriel trains to be a silver saint, and some of the places of worship and just everything. I think I can show you this because I don't think it is spoiler related, but I'm going to show you. Do I show you this character? Yeah, I'm going to show you it. I don't think it's a spoiler, but if you can see the sort of Gothic architecture on the inside, it's just absolutely beautiful, like with the stained glass windows. Sorry, I'm probably talking really close to the microphone there. The sort of stained glass windows and everything. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. The descriptions are gorgeous. I love it. There are quite a lot of other sort of images that really show the sort of Gothic nature of it as well, but I don't want to spoil anything. I think that picture was very non-spoiler. Another thing that I would also say about the world building is, I believe this comes into the world building, is the threading in of the religion. This book does have a lot of religious commentary and a lot of a lot of religion is sort of interwoven. I think that comes naturally with sort of vampire tales, especially ones that are rooted in very sort of traditional vampire lore. But there is a lot of religious sort of influence here. Jay Kristoff often speaks about how a lot of his own sort of experiences and his own thoughts and his own sort of journey in faith and religion has sort of influenced this book as well. But it is generally very heavily influenced by Christianity, and also branches out into its own religious lore as well. So it's kind of, there's a lot of basis from Christianity, there are others as well, but it does branch out into other things that Jay has created specifically for this world. So for example, you have the one faith, you have a lot of reference to the Redeemer, to Mother Marin is often referred to, and of course the Holy Grail itself. Now, I don't want to talk too in depth about characters because I don't want to spoil anything. Of course, we have Gabriel de Leon, our main protagonist, and then we also have our vampire historian, Jean-Francois, and I love those two characters and I absolutely adore their dynamic. They're dynamic, they sort of bounce off each other really well throughout the entire sort of series so far to what I've read, and it's just brilliantly done. We do have so many characters, and I think though a couple of characters may be seen as slightly disposable, they do all have an interesting part to play in terms of the commentary and the addition to the world building and the lore, but also to the themes, which I will talk more about later. We do have other Silversaints. I can talk briefly about one. Aaron DeCoste is a Silversaint, a fellow Silversaint of Gabriel's, and someone that he has a very interesting relationship with, and it develops throughout the books, and it is beautifully done. Because of the Silversaints themselves are all male. Okay, so Silversaints are all male, and so there's a very much a sense of brotherhood throughout the characterization in sort of Saint Michon with the Silversaints. Also, as part of Saint Michon, we have the Sisters of the Silver Order. So these are females that are not Silversaints because it's not possible for a female to be a Silversaint, but we do have women who are working in the church to support and working at Saint Michon to support the Silversaints in ending Day's death and defeating evil. And they have a really important part to play. We then do have elements of Gabriel's family. We are introduced to Gabriel's sort of parents and his sisters, and then other people that Gabriel meets on the way on his journey. But I won't go into too much depth about that. What I would say is that as the books go on, particularly in book 2, the characters really start to bring in some of the, as I say, the culture from the other parts of the world and the lore, and it really does build to the greater plot. It's so interesting, and it all helps support Gabriel and learn more about himself as a character as well. And then, of course, we have our villains, who are inherently vile and evil and disgusting. So we do have very nasty vampires on our hands, and primarily they are the blood Voss. So we have a particularly nasty vampire called Fabian Voss, the Forever King. I think it's a little bit self-explanatory there. I'm not going to talk too much about him, but we have his family and other vampires as well. Obviously, we're starting to go into spoilers. I would start to go into spoilers there, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but they do add so much. Okay, so let's have a moment to just specifically talk about the vampires and the vampire lore that Jay has created, because I just adore it. So in Jay's series, vampires do have a lot of lore and a lot of history. The lore and the history of the vampires coincides with the plot beautifully, and there's so many other things that could be explored, but the aspects of and the lore surrounding the vampires and the Silversaints also really drive the plot forward. They're not just there to be there. They are an active part of the story, which I really love. And also the themes of the story. Now, something that is really interesting in Jay's Empire of the Vampire series is that the different vampires come from different bloodlines, and different bloodlines impact the vampires differently. So we have 4 main bloodlines. So we have Blood Voss, Blood Devok, Blood Chastain. I would say Chastain, but it's not. It's Chastain, and Blood Elon. And each bloodline gives vampires of that bloodline specific abilities. So whether it is that it makes them super strong and it makes them like rock solid so they can't be destroyed. So Blood Voss, for example, they're super strong, but also they're almost like you can't do anything to them. They're not harmed by anything. They can't be damaged by anything. Their skin is like so thick. It's almost like glass. Also another one is links to animals. So some of them can sort of create bonds and like sort of communicate with animals. That might be Chastain. Chastain, actually. We then also have another part, which this is revealed later into the book, but I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, so I am going to share it. And it's with the nature of the vampires that are encountered. So you have a few different types. Fledglings are fresh, new vampires, newly created, newly turned. And then these branch out into two separate types. So you have something which is called a foul blood, which is essentially a person that has been turned into a vampire. Because not everybody turns. When a vampire bites a vampire, it's not guaranteed that the person will turn. They might just die. But if they do turn, and if they turn a little bit late, so a few days or weeks after they've passed away, then it means that their body has started to decompose a little bit and their brain has started to decompose. And so foul bloods are those. They've turned really late on, and because they've started to decompose, because their brain has started to rot, literally brain rot, they're not fully functional. They can run and they can kill, but they don't have sort of high level thinking skills, that sort of thing. And then you also have high bloods. High bloods are people that have been killed that turn instantly, pretty much. And they are as they were when they passed away, very much. And they tend to be very beautiful, and their beauty tends to be then accentuated. So a lot of the Voss family, for example, are, absolutely gorgeous. Another aspect of this story that I really need to talk about is just the writing itself. Now, for some people, I could see that this definitely would not work for them, but for me, the writing is beautiful. And later on, I'm going to share some quotes so that you can kind of get an idea of whether this kind of writing is for you. But personally, I loved it. It's absolutely beautiful. The descriptions of the world and the world building, the descriptions of the vampires as well, in particular, are just phenomenal. And just the small observations that are made and the details. It's all so purposeful. I don't believe in this series. Now, I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I personally don't think any words have been wasted. They're all used with complete intent, and they all have something. They just all have power, and they are absolutely stunning. There is a lot of commentary on human emotion and the nature of human impulse and moments of lack of control. They are all beautifully done. And then this also would bring in humour. Jay uses a lot of comedic relief in this series, and I believe it's needed because this is dark. This is a dark series. It's not the darkest series I've ever read, but it is really dark and really emotional and quite devastating at points. So there are quite a lot of moments of lightheartedness and comedic relief and sort of banter between characters. Now, I will say it definitely can be on the line of like a little bit cheesy every now and then, but personally it worked for me. And I think it worked for me because of the nature of the dynamics between the people who it was between. The banter worked for the dynamic of the characters, and genuinely, I was giggling and enjoyed it. And it was just fun. And it was nice to have those lighter moments. These are dark books. They don't shy away from really heavy moments that are really cutthroat. So to have those moments to balance it out was really important for me. I will also say that these books can be quite spicy. Now, when I say that, if you are somebody that reads a lot of romance or a lot of dark romance or just anything that has spice in, then these probably aren't going to be that spicy because the scenes do not happen really very frequently. It's relatively infrequent, but some of the moments are kind of rooted in the vampire lore, which may add to the spiciness. For me, these scenes were written beautifully. I've seen a lot of criticisms in the past of Jay Kristoff being criticised for not writing spicy scenes very well. I beg to differ. I honestly believe that he writes spicy scenes absolutely beautifully. They feel so rooted in genuine sexual chemistry, connection, and genuine love as well. Not all of them, but most of them. The sort of romantic ones really are. There's a lot of sexual chemistry there and real tension. And also something that I'm going to say, and it sounds really silly to say this, but the scenes are very few and far between. They don't happen very frequently. And when they are written, they are short. They're a paragraph or two. Or a page maybe, but that's enough. And it's beautifully written, and it's really sensual, and I just found that it was absolutely beautiful and written lovely. As I've said before, Jay Kristoff is a silver-tongued devil, and I stand by that. Another thing I have to mention, I cannot talk about this series without talking about a really important feature of them, which is, of course, the illustrations. These books are stunning. And now I'm a bit biased here in terms of the illustrations. I do have the colour illustrations in this book. The other traditional releases are the illustrations are not in colour. This is a special edition that happens to have them, and they are honestly beautiful. But regardless, black or white or in colour, the illustrations are all phenomenal. Look at that. Isn't it beautiful? It's so beautiful. Even just the map was beautiful, but just the illustrations are absolutely stunning. I'm trying to find another one that isn't like spoilery. Of course, you've got the one that's behind me of Gabriel, so that's obviously in here as well, which I do have. I'm just trying to think where it is. There it is. Of course, there he is, my Gabriel. The illustrations are absolutely beautiful and they add so much more to the story. It's so lovely to see these things and to get sort of an idea of what they look like. Not that you would need them because the writing describes it so beautifully, but just seeing them is stunning. So the illustrations are a beautiful addition to these books. I just think they're phenomenal. I do realise that I've been talking for an incredibly long time, but I can't talk about these books without touching on the themes. Now, this is something that I've only really been sort of diving into a bit more recently. So I recently did a discussion with my friend Jake from Nerd Level Rising. He's recently read Empire of the Vampire for the first time, is also currently reading Empire of the Damned, and I'm so happy for him. But we had a non-spoiler and spoiler chat over on his channel about Empire of the Vampire, and something that he really brought to my attention is actually the themes that this dives into. Now, I read Empire of the Vampire quite a bit over a year ago now, and at that time, it was only the second fantasy book I'd read for a really long time. And at this point, I wasn't thinking critically or looking that deeply into books at all. And so I didn't really consider these themes that much. Whereas when I was having that discussion with Jake really enlightened me to think about the themes a little bit more. And because I recently reread this series in preparation for Empire of the Dawn, it really made me think, oh my gosh, there are so many themes and I really didn't think about them when I was reading it for the first time. So some prominent themes are love and loss. There's love and loss of family and friends. It's not only due to the obvious reasons of Day's death and vampires, but through choices that they've made as well. And also poor choices, people making poor choices and it impacting them and then them passing away and things going wrong. And so it's really deeply explored. This, of course, also with a lot of fantasy books, found family and friendship are two incredibly important themes in this. Friendship is particularly explored through the brotherhood of the Silversaints of Saint Michon. I think that's such an important demonstration of a friendship in this series. A prominent feature of this series is that Gabriel often says the line, "My friends are the hill I die on." And that's a very prominent theme throughout the entire series. And he repeats it quite a lot of times. And it's so beautiful. And it makes it so much more impactful that Gabriel is able to develop these friendships that mean so much more than just being a friend. In a world where you've got nothing, there's nothing seemingly to live for, there is something to live for, and you can find that through your friendship. It also discusses friendship and bonds that can be made and found family that can be made despite having different goals, coming from different backgrounds, the history that you guys have all been, that you've been through, and the divides and the natural rivalries. There's quite a lot of that as well. It's just beautifully incorporated because there's a shared goal. The biggest theme I think that this series does explore is faith. Faith is a huge theme in this story. The subject of belief and religion is so deeply rooted into the plot and the story. An interesting thing about it is that we look at it from so many different angles as well. Those who didn't have faith in the beginning and have gained it, those who had faith really strong and have lost it, those who are trying to find their own faith or find out their own relationship with the faith. The faith is very much deep-lit. There are different faiths throughout the different lands, but predominantly in terms of the main plot line that we're following, particularly with the Silversaints of Saint Michon, is the belief in the one faith and the Redeemer. We explore people who have faith, are finding their faith, or trying to kind of finding out what their relationship is with their faith in a world that is, in complete peril, plunged into despair, and where faith seemingly isn't working. It can very much be seen as a sort of crisis of faith in some ways. How can it ask the question, how can a benevolent God allow this to happen? And this is something that Gabe's character reckons with a lot throughout the book. but it doesn't inherently paint either picture as good or bad or right or wrong. It explores all of them and how different relationships with faith can impact people differently, positively, negatively. You know, it's really interesting, because there is also a theme throughout this book where, well, it's not even a theme, but where genuine belief in the faith holds genuine power. And it's not just a coincidence. It actually holds a lot of power in the story. So you have that side of it as well. But then you have the moments where the genuine faith wasn't enough. And so it dances along that line. It's really interesting, and such an interesting in-depth exploration for me. And it made me think about it so much. I love that the belief and the faith is so rooted within the lore of the Silversaints, and just the lore of the entire vampire world. And I just found that absolutely fascinating. And I thought it was really well done. Before I talk about some really brief spoilers, I am just going to read out some of my favorite quotes from the series. I literally have them listed in front of me, but I just have to read them. If you like the sound of any of these quotes, this may be a book for you. A life without books is a life not lived. Your past is stone, but your future clay, and you decide the shape of the life you'll make. Put a man in a room for 100 years with 1,000 books, and he'll know 1,000,000 truths. Put him in a room with a year for silence, and he'll know himself. If we spend all of our lives in darkness, is it any wonder when the darkness starts to live in us? There's no misery so deep as the one you face for yourself, no nights darker than ones you spend alone, and you can learn to live with any weight. Your scars grow thick enough, they become armour. If any of those quotes sounded remotely good to you, I think you will love this series, because it is jam-packed with them. This is my little spoiler, I'm going to spoil some things section. If you haven't read it and you don't want to know any spoilers, this is only a brief moment, but it is just me saying, spoiler alert, I am now going to talk very briefly. There's a couple of aspects about this story that I absolutely adore, but I can't talk about them without giving a spoiler warning. So, 3, 2, 1, spoilers incoming. An aspect of the lore that I loved about the Silversaints is, and Gabe's characterization as well, is that all Silversaints are both vampire and human. They have a parent of each, and they naturally have this inherent bloodthirst, and this bloodthirst completely takes them over throughout later life, and it becomes so much like an addiction, where they actually end up losing control and then could end up killing people and becoming the monster that they wish to destroy. I love that kind of control and the inevitable, you know, facing the inevitable, that you are going to become the monster that you hate. And I just love that. But there's another element where, so that change is called the sangueur. I think it's called the sangueur. And it's that bloodthirst, and it just growing and growing and growing. And so they use something which I absolutely adore. They use something called sanctus, which in this world is a bit like a drug, which kind of suppresses the need for vampires, for the vampire in the Silversaints, like that part of them. It kind of suppresses their bloodthirst. And sanctus is made from the blood of vampires, which I just find so interesting. I love it. And it then adds to Gabriel as a character, because we start to see him suffering from the effects of the sangueur, and he uses sanctus like a drug to suppress it, but it very much comes across as this sort of addiction, you know, problem with substances thing, and it shows a different side to him, which I find really interesting. And then something else that I loved about this story that was that is linked to this is there is one chapter in book 1 called The Red Rite, and it's one of my favourite chapters. So the rite involves a priest of the Silversaints of Samashon performing a ritualistic throat cutting of a Silversaint. So the Red Rite is essentially when a Silversaint knows that they're losing the battle with the sangueur. It's too powerful, it's taking them over. They know they're not going to be able to control it anymore. And so they essentially opt to have their lives ended so that they cannot become that monster. So they have their throat cut, and they are placed, they are thrown over the side off of something called Heaven's Bridge. And there is a scene in book 1 where this takes place, and Gabe witnesses it. You know, he's a young boy, he's 15, and he knows he's a Silversaint. He knows he's a Silversaint. He knows this. And he is shown that he sees his first Red Rite, where another Silversaint is older, been overpowered by the sangueur. He's chosen the Red Rite. He's chosen, I need to end my life. It's now or never. I don't want to become that monster. And you see Gabe reckoning with this as he thinks, that's my future. This is what I am. And I just loved it. I thought it was so powerful. It was so beautifully written. And it just, the tension and just that feeling of being a 15-year-old boy and knowing that, you know, only moments before that, really having found out you're a Silver Saint, you're incredibly powerful, you've got vampire blood in you, you could be a hero, you could save people, you could end vampires. Oh, imagine that power as a 15-year-old boy, and then imagine seeing that. Imagine seeing that. That's your future, you know, unless you die at battle or in war or doing what we are doing, that's your future. Or you become a monster. Oh, mind blowing, loved it. Anyway, that is everything. That is my summary, overview, review, whatever. I don't know what to call it, of Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. This series means so much to me. I can't wait for book 3, Empire of the Dawn, to come out next week. I actually can't contain myself. I'm not okay. If you like this video, please do give it a like. I would be so, so grateful. I hope you did enjoy it. If you didn't, I'm really sorry. I'll try again next week. If you would like to become a firm member of the Library of Silversaint and join, please do hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you here. Please let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed the video, if you have read Empire of the Vampire, if you like this series, if you don't like it, if you're excited for Empire of the Dawn, what your favourite aspects are about the story. I would love to know. And I hope you all have a lovely week, and I hope you enjoy reading Empire of the Dawn if you are going to do it, or if you pick up Empire of the Vampire. I hope you love it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.